it's Mr. Emmanuel Macron, who could be the surprise candidate, but to face a populist candidate like Marine Le Pen.
Francois, can you explain to me some of the market inefficiency theories, please?
Yeah, we have currently different inefficiencies. We have short-term inefficiencies and long-term inefficiencies. The short-term inefficiencies, the most well-known are, for instance, Christmas rally, where the market is booming just ahead of Christmas, and the bull market is ending end of January, something that is repeating every year, more or less, and statistically proven. You have also another short-term inefficiency, which is called sell in May and stay away or go away. Those are these types of short-term inefficiencies. We have also long-term inefficiencies, which is, for instance, the one linked to the US presidential election, where the year before the presidential election, markets are more or less booming because supported by the different programs of the different candidates. Then during the election year also the market is booming, and then in between the 2 years in between the elections and the pre-campaign years, markets are in fact disappointing because politicians are applying unpopular measures for investors, for consumers, and things like this. There are also longer terms inefficiencies in the market, like the so-called 7 series years, where actually since the 1900 centuries you can look, and it's statistically proven that every year ending with a 7 is more or less a year which is disappointing for equity investors. We had it in 2007, for instance, which is the starting point of the last huge financial crisis, or a massive destruction of hedge funds, or a massive destruction within the hedge funds industry. We had it also in 1987 with the October crash. We had it also more linked to the history in 1907, where we had a huge banking crisis in the US called the panic crisis, where banks had collateral issues. Voilà. So you see, we have those types of inefficiencies which are currently existing in the market and repeating, and sometimes even overlapping. Means you have short-term inefficiencies overlapping with long-term inefficiencies.
So how are yearly market theories different?
Yeah, I mean the market currently, what we can say to a certain extent, we can retrieve those types of inefficiencies in the market even now, but to a certain extent we should not rely only on these inefficiencies, and there are some hopefully for investors like the one that I am, markets are quite efficient. Means not reacting to artificial path or statistical path, but reacting to fundamentals. And for instance, today's presidential election results in the US is one of these efficiencies. Means equity markets, currencies, bond markets are going to react efficiently and not based on a previous artificial path.
So what is your outlook for the equity markets going into 2017?
Due to the current election in the US, the visibility for investors has reduced quite significantly. There is no panic. There is no panic at all. We have seen this morning Swiss francs a little bit appreciating, a huge intervention of the Swiss central bankers. We have seen also in the equity market, for instance, industries which are more or less supported by the politics of Trump being quite positively oriented. Mostly I'm speaking here the pharmaceutical industry. pharmaceutical industries in Switzerland, but also elsewhere in the US, is supported by the team of Trump. So they reacted quite positively, and even for the small story, the Swiss equity market was this morning, due to the fact that we have a huge exposure in pharmaceuticals like Novartis, Roche, and all the smaller suppliers. The market was even in positive territory this morning compared to European markets, which were down 2%. But the financial community is reacting quite peacefully to the election of Trump, when we make abstraction from Asian market, where the people were much more surprised than in Europe by the presidential election.
And finally, are there any hurdles we should look out for in the equity markets going into 2017?
There is a shock that we could have is some elections. For instance, in May, we are going to face French presidential election, and there we could be quite surprised to see at first in the second round candidates which are currently not expected at all by the financial community. And they could be some candidate from the populism side, like Marine Le Pen or Mr. Mélenchon, but probably Marine Le Pen is going to be in the second round. And also a candidate could be in the second round, which is not yet expected at all, is a former minister of the socialist government, which is currently in place, and he resigned 2-3 months ago. It's Mr. Emmanuel Macron, who could be the surprise candidate, but to face a populist candidate like Marine Le Pen. Those are these types of hurdles which we have to take into account.
Well, thank you, Francois, for joining us in the studios. As always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you at home for watching. Don't forget you can catch the previous interviews with Francois by clicking on our channel. Goodbye for now.